Hello, it's Mr. Mobility once again. Welcome back to my channel. Don't forget to subscribe, like this video, turn on your notifications, and we'll just keep things rolling again and again. So yesterday, somebody tweeted at me. Okay, is tweeted still a word? Because it's no longer Twitter, it's now X. So someone X'd at me. Well, so someone X'd at me, asking me if it was true that some phones with lower megapixel cameras might shoot better pictures than those with higher megapixels. And guess what the answer was? Yes, it was true. It is true. Some phones with lower megapixel counts actually shoot better photographs than some phones with higher megapixel counts. And the reason is this, that the megapixel count is not the only factor that determines image quality. It's not the only factor that determines how good a smartphone's camera is. Yes. Mobile phone companies use it as a marketing tool, to flaunt all over the place. Oh, this new phone has 108 megapixels. That new phone has a 200 megapixels camera, blah, 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 blah. It's great for marketing. It's not entirely gimmicky. Megapixels do contribute to an aspect of the quality of photographs that a camera produces. Details. So the higher the megapixel count, all other things being equal, the greater level of details you're likely to get from that camera. Take note, I said all other things being equal. Why? Because besides the megapixel count, other factors like image processing, the sensor quality, the sensor size, image stabilization, etc., all contribute to determining the final output of the photographs that your smartphone camera shoots. The same thing applies to digital cameras. The same thing applies to more professional cameras. Whatever type of camera it is, there are more than one factor responsible for determining the overall quality of that camera. And you cannot depend only on the megapixel count. I'll run through some of these factors quickly, right? The aperture. Think of the aperture as the window. That part of the camera that opens up to let light in, right? And if you know anything about photography, light is everything. The more light a camera is able to extract from the atmosphere or from the subject or from the environment it is in, the greater the likelihood that the picture will come out better. So we talk about phones doing well in good lighting, performing poorer in low lighting, etc. So the aperture is a factor, right? It determines how much light the camera lens can gather. A wider aperture, the aperture is, when you check smartphone specifications, you always see a number with f1.8, f1.2, f2.4. That's the aperture being referred to. So the lower the f number, the wider the aperture. So wherever you see a low f number, it means it's a wide aperture, and it means that it allows more light in, resulting in better low light performance and potentially gives you a shallower depth of field. Okay, so that's number one factor, the aperture. Number two factor is the sensor size. Larger camera sensors generally also capture more light, resulting in better image quality, especially in low light situations. Third, we come to the one that you know and that you hear every day, the megapixel count. This is the one that most smartphone owners talk about because, well, the f number is difficult for people to understand. Aperture, what is aperture, blah blah blah. But megapixel count, this one, 24 megapixel camera, 48 megapixel camera, 64 megapixel. Pretty much, it just talks about the number of pixels on the camera, right? But it isn't the only factor related to pixels. The pixel size is another factor. Apart from the number of pixels, The pixel size, the larger the pixels on the camera sensor, the more light they can capture. Have you noticed that almost everything is about light? You know, if you remember my video about tips to help you take better photographs with your smartphone camera, I kept saying that lighting is everything. Light is everything as far as taking photographs are concerned. And for most factors, the camera is just trying to squeeze as much light as possible than its competitor. So pixel size, the larger the size of the pixel and the camera sensor, the more light it can capture, the more it can improve image quality, again, especially in low light conditions. Pixel size is typically measured in micrometers. It's written as UM. It looks like UM, okay? So when you're looking at phone specs and you see UM, that's talking about pixel size. Another factor that determines image quality from a camera is the lens quality, the quality of the lens itself, right? Think of it like glass, right? All glass is not the same. Anyone who knows glassware knows that all glass is not the same. Some glass are dead cheap, you know, bottom barrel quality, and they are dead cheap. But there are some glassware, they are so expensive that they are not used to serve food, they are used as decoration. In the same way, the lens quality, it's not the same, right? So if the quality of the lens is higher, you are going to get higher quality photographs from that camera. So what determines the quality of the lens? The glass, the coatings, all of this affect image sharpness, clarity, and overall image quality. The next factor, you see, there are a number of factors. The next factor that determines image quality of a smartphone camera is the image processing. And this is directly or indirectly related to the smartphone's processor chipset and maybe some other extra graphics processing unit and some other extra processors in the phone, right? The higher the quality, the higher the capability of those processors and the software in the phone, the better. The software algorithms, image processing capabilities of a smartphone all significantly impact image quality. So it helps to determine how much noise reduction has been done, dynamic range enhancement, color processing, all those enhancements that happen via software. Yes, for example, Google Pixels are known for their great camera prowess, and it is because of the software. That software is superb. Software is fantastic. Everybody, you take a picture with a Pixel and you can almost tell when a picture has been taken with a Google Pixel compared to any other smartphone. Similarly, you can almost tell when a picture has been taken by an iPhone compared to any other smartphone. I can also tell you authoritatively that you can almost tell when a photograph was taken with a Samsung smartphone compared to other smartphones. You see, it's the software. There is a particular signature that the software in each of those phones impact on image quality. Okay? So the last factor I will talk about, image stabilization. You see, many of you like to take your pictures, you take your camera and you like this, snap, snap, one hand, snap. Many times you will check those pictures and you will see that quite a number of them are blurry. That's what happens when you're doing fine boy, young guy, you're posing, taking pictures. And I tell people, if you want to take better pictures with your smartphone, use your two hands. Why? It reduces the chances of the camera shaking when you're snapping. But I digress. Image stabilization is one of the things that can be built into a smartphone to increase image quality. Not all smartphones have it. It's expensive technology, so you won't find it in entry-level Android phones, for example. You won't find it in a lot of mid-rangers, But once you start going higher up, higher end mid-rangers, budget flagships, premium flagships, you will find some form of image stabilization. It may be optical image stabilization, which is popularly known as OIS. It might be electronic image stabilization, which is popularly referred to as EIS. But if you had to choose, take optical. Optical is boss. So image stabilization is another factor that contributes to the quality of photographs that a camera phone, or any kind of camera for that matter, produces. What it does is it helps to reduce camera shake so that your images are sharper and your videos are smoother, especially if you are in motion or in low light conditions. So how does this work out? How do you determine, which camera phone is better than which? Well, it's usually difficult from just looking at the specs. That much I can tell you, because the specs can tell you that this camera A has a 108 megapixel camera and this one has a 20 megapixel camera, and you will think, if you didn't know what I'm sharing here, you will think that the 108 megapixel camera is automatically better than the 20 megapixel camera, and I am sorry to say that many times you will just be surprised to find out that the 20 megapixel camera takes better photographs. Why? Maybe it has a better quality lens, it has a wider aperture, it has optical image stabilization or electronic image stabilization above the other guy. Whatever it is, the megapixel count strictly does not tell you how well a camera will perform. I have two smartphones on my desk as I type this. One has a 50 megapixel camera while the other has a 108 megapixel camera. Which one shoots better pictures? The guy with the 50 megapixel cameras. Why? It has optical image stabilization, it has a better lens, it has a wider aperture, it has a lot of all those other things built in. The software is better. The other camera with a 108 megapixel camera actually has poor image processing. Image processing is just a regular processing that came with the chipset. The manufacturer did not spend money and time to fine-tune it, to apply their own tweaks and whatever into it. So it's just there. It doesn't take horrible photographs, but it's just no match for the 50 megapixel camera. Okay, for example, let's use a more recent example. The iPhone 15 Pro Max has just been released. It has a 48 megapixel camera and yet that bad boy outshoots maybe 90 to 95% of all the smartphones in existence. It outshoots the guys with the 64 megapixel camera. It outshoots the ones with the 108 megapixel camera. It outshoots many 50 megapixel cameras. That 48 megapixel camera in the iPhone has those other factors at a higher rate. Let's put it that way. So I don't bamboozle you too much with technical words. Those other factors are present in superior form. So it doesn't matter that it's a 48 megapixel camera. It still shoots better photographs than pretty much most of the other phones in existence. Does it mean that you can't have a smartphone with a high megapixel count that does well? Oh, but you do. For example, Samsung's Galaxy S23 Ultra has a 200 megapixel camera. That's massive. That's a high number of megapixels. That's a high megapixel count. And it outshoots the majority of smartphones in existence. It outshoots everybody, pretty much. So, the megapixel count matters, but it is not the only factor. I'm going to give you a hack that can help you. It's a rough rule. You see, all those enhancements that I listed, those factors that can be enhanced to produce the best picture quality, it costs time and money to implement them. The software that Google has for their image processing, or that Apple has, or that Samsung has, it costs money. Okay, high quality lenses cost money. So, are you getting the picture? As a rule, with the clause that there are exceptions to the rule, as a rule, the more expensive the smartphone, chances are the higher the quality of photographs it will shoot. You are not going to find fantastic cameras on entry-level Android phones. You are not going to. Like I said when I was reviewing one other phone, a budget phone recently, you have to believe in magic or sorcery to think that a $200 or $250 smartphone is going to outshoot $500, $600, $900 smartphone. It's physics. It's physics and economics. Those things cost money. To create a great camera simply costs a lot of money. If Samsung, for example, were to put the S23 Ultra's camera in the A04, the A04 is a budget smartphone. The price of the A04 will shoot out of the reach of most of those it is targeted at. It's doable, but the price will shoot out. There will also be something else that has to be done. That camera depends on a powerful processor. So Samsung will also have to get rid of the processor in the A04e and put in a powerful processor, maybe the same one that's in the S23 Ultra, in order to make that camera work exactly the way it is working now. Again, the price of that phone will just keep going up till it doesn't make sense any longer to be called an entry-level or a budget smartphone. So as a rule, you will find the finest cameras in the most expensive smartphones. There are exceptions to that rule. For example, rugged smartphones, industrial smartphones tend to be expensive, but it's not because of the camera that they are expensive. Usually it's because of the extra protection that's built into them and into their bodies to protect them from falls, from water, from dust, from heat, from shock. All of those cost money. So that extra money comes from making the phone rugged. And if you pick the average rugged smartphone, the camera is average. The manufacturers are not putting in the resources in the camera because that's not the target for that category of phones. So you get the picture. So you can have a $900 rugged smartphone whose camera does not behave any better than a $200 smartphone. And that's because the $900 was not spent. It was not spent on the camera, it was spent on making it rugged, making it able to take a beating and survive. Okay, so those are the kind of expensive exceptions. Now, another exception would be with luxury phones. Many times a luxury maker takes a basic phone, a very basic phone that doesn't have any outstanding feature, adds diamonds, adds precious metals, maybe gold, silver, whatever, and then the price shoots up to $1,000, $2,000. Those phones are in a different category of their own. People who are buying them are not, they have professional cameras and everything they want to use for photography. They just want to represent, they want to flex, they want to show off. You know, if you are in that league, you are a billionaire. Hey, you know, you just buy it because in your circles, you are expected to have a phone that's gold plated or that has a diamond stud at the back or something. The camera is not going to do anything fantastic. In fact, not much of the phone is going to do anything fantastic. The money you are spending on the phone is for bling. It's to look good. It's to show off that you are in the 0.01% at the top of the world's pyramid. Okay, so in summary, the megapixel count matters. What it does is the more megapixels a camera has, the higher the level of details you can get. But it's not the only factor that determines how good a camera is. So don't let the megapixel hype fool you. Don't. I'll see you again next time. Don't forget, please like this video. Please subscribe to my channel. Please. Bye.